Okay, so we've got World's Strongest Man right upon us, and I thought it was a good time to do a video about World's Strongest Man, but not this year's competition. It would have been obvious for me to do the best strongmen that I've ever competed against, the greatest strongmen there's ever been, but I wanted to do a video that is the best strongmen I've competed against that didn't win World's Strongest Man. So I've put together a list of the 10 best guys, in my opinion, who I competed against that didn't win World's Strongest Man. I was fortunate to compete against many greats: Magnus Samuelsson, Sven Karlsson, Mariusz Pudzianowski, Brian Shaw, Big Z, Thor, Eddie, you know, the list goes on. So I've competed against many great strongmen over the years, but I just wanted to do something a little bit different, to shout out some of the guys that perhaps didn't get the credit that they deserved with a World's Strongest Man title. Now, this list is not in any order at all. I've not done it as a top 10 or anything like that, but I have got 10 names. These are all guys, in my opinion, who were amazing strongmen. Maybe didn't win World's Strongest Man because careers were cut short or they started too late, but these are the guys that I feel, if they'd started at the right time and things that had gone well for them or worked out, they could have won World's Strongest Man. Now, first on my list is a fan favourite with a lot of guys, especially in the area that he competed in. We're going to go with Derek Poundstone. Now, Derek was an amazing strongman, burst on the scene, doing well at the Arnolds, doing well at a lot of Super Series shows as they were at the time. In his first World's Strongest Man, just narrowly missing out on winning the title. All came down to that last event, was 2008 World's Strongest Man. Mariusz against him on the stones. He almost loads the 5th stone before Mariusz. Just misses out. It slips on the edge of the platform. Doesn't get the win, but was an incredible strongman. Was very, very unlucky not to win the title that year. So he was second at the Arnold Classic and second at World's Strongest Man in 2008. He then went on to win the Arnolds the 2 following years. 2009, 2010, won the Arnold Classic. Now, he never really got to those heights again in World's Strongest Man, but in my opinion, for that 2008 performance, I think he deserves to be on this list of the best strongmen that never won World's Strongest Man. So next on the list, my old sparring partner, Big Loz, definitely deserves to be on this list. His highest position at World's Strongest Man was the 4th place, but you got to remember that in that time, some of the best guys ever were included in that list. You had Brian Shaw, Big Z, winning that year that he came 4th. Was an incredible performance. I actually was fortunate enough to come 3rd that year. It was a very close battle between the two of us and it could have gone either way. But I think probably Loz's crowning moment was winning the Europe's Strongest Man title in 2016. Obviously a massive title to win. And on top of that was against Thor Bjornsson, who was also an incredible strongman. I still think that Thor, as he was at his best, would be very, very close to the best strongman there's ever been, if not the best in a lot of people's opinion. Still around now. I'm hoping one day he makes it back to World's Strongest Man, but that's another story. He's an incredible athlete. So obviously for Loz to beat him in that contest was an incredible performance. He's a 2-time winner of Britain's Strongest Man as well, which is obviously a big achievement. Britain's Strongest Man is a tough competition to win, so to win it twice is pretty incredible. Was on the podium 4 times, and so Loz was very unlucky, like myself, that in our prime years, both of us were nip and tuck. We didn't have Britain's Strongest Man for a number of years. So 2009, there was no Britain's Strongest Man, 10 or 11. And those years between the two of us certainly could have gone either way. So, you know, I think both of us like to think that we probably would have had more titles had that not happened. But amazing performances at World's Strongest Man as well over the years. Loads of consistency, a lot of longevity as well. So obviously I've got to have him on the list. And like I said, that defining moment was winning Europe's Strongest Man, which is an amazing achievement. Now, next on my list, I was reluctant to actually put him on the list. And the reason I was reluctant is because he's still competing now, is Matias Kilakovski. in my opinion, one of the best strongmen there's ever been, and certainly on the list of people that deserve to have won a title at some point. He's been second twice at World's Strongest Man, an incredible athlete, has done so well in so many competitions, and the reason I was reluctant to put him on the list is because, like I said, he could still potentially win a World's Strongest Man title. He's young enough, he's still good enough if he gets everything in place at the right time. Injuries are behind him and all the rest of it. I think he could potentially still go on and win. But twice second at World's Strongest Man, and also got 5 podiums at the Arnold Classic, which is absolutely incredible. Was second in 2020, 2023 and 2024. So, I mean, Matias is an incredible strongman. I'm so pleased to see him back. Always been a big fan of his abilities. Obviously, we all know the deadlift's not quite up there with the very top guys. It's probably better than people give him credit for, but I think it's just because his level is so high on all the other events. It's almost like a bit difficult to understand how you can be so good at everything, including things that are posterior chain strength related and not deadlift. But I think with Matias, it's just one of those things that doesn't come naturally. He's got to a point where he's pulled 420 in the past, which is a huge lift. It just gets sort of overlooked a little bit because of some of the humongous deadlifters there are around these days. But in the right competition, in the right setting, I still believe that Matias could have an outside chance of winning a World's Strongest Man title. But as at this moment, he hasn't done that, so he goes on my list of best strongmen I competed against that didn't win World's Strongest Man. So next on my list is Mr. Mike Jenkins. Obviously, this is a little bit of a sad one. Mike was a great guy, fantastic strongman. Career was obviously cut short for different reasons to some of the guys. He sadly passed away, which was a tragedy for our sport. He was so well liked by everybody. Everyone had so much respect for him, and was an incredible athlete as well. One of the real sort of stars of the sport in terms of as a personality and as a competitor. And obviously so sad to, you know, go through that, what happened. Obviously, he was a very young man when it happened, so yeah, it was an absolute tragedy. But he got an 8th place at World's Strongest Man in 2011. Now, I was fortunate to come 3rd that year, but Mike, at the point of injuring his back, was actually beating me. So I think that had he not had the back injury, and obviously injuries do happen in sport, but had he not had that, potentially it could have been him standing on the podium instead of me. So always had a lot of respect for Mike. He was a lovely guy, and yeah, obviously his performances in other shows as well were incredible. He got a 2nd place at the Arnold Classic and then went on and won it the following year. So extremely sad for everyone, and obviously yeah, he was an incredible strongman and probably could have gone on and won World's Strongest Man had the tragedy not happened. So next on the list is Kristoff Radzikovski. Now, Kristoff always seemed to underdeliver at World's Strongest Man, and that's not me being mean to him. Obviously, he was around a very tough era, but he was an incredible strongman away from World's Strongest Man. Won multiple Giants Lives. I mean, he was podiumed at so many competitions, had a fantastic career, but just perhaps didn't quite perform at World's Strongest Man. Now, maybe he was one of those guys that really struggled with the long, dragged out shows and enjoyed the one-day shows better. I would actually say that is the case because obviously Kristoff, if anyone saw him compete in a one-day show, he could mix it with anybody. He was absolutely incredible. His best place at World's Strongest Man was actually a 6th place, which surprised me even when I was looking it up, because I was shocked that he only made one final of World's Strongest Man and was sixth in it. He was so good in one-day shows and big one-day shows as well. He actually got 3 podiums at Europe's Strongest Man, was second twice and third once. He was, yeah, like I said, an all-round great strongman. Won so many Champions Leagues. I mean, incredible athlete. And he was one person actually at the time was, I mean, perhaps Mike Jenkins as well, but Kristoff could actually push Z on the log, which was quite a feat. There's a video of him doing a 217.5 kilogram log press, which, I mean, blows my mind. I mean, that would still be right up there with the very best even now. And Kristoff wasn't a humongous guy either compared to like guys like Big Z and stuff. You see Big Z in his prime, he was an absolute monster. Kristoff was a bit smaller and leaner and just had incredible shoulder and tricep power. But massive fan of Kristoff. He's a great strong man, and I had to include him on my list just because of his performances in other shows. So next on my list, and this one might surprise a few, but I think he is one that I talked in the beginning about perhaps people's careers were cut short, things like that. Mike Burke is someone that came into the sport a little bit too late to really realise his full potential. Now, he was incredible, came 4th at World's Strongest Man in 2014. I was actually 5th that year. Amazing strong man. And I think that he never really reached the heights of what he could have been capable of had he started a few years earlier. He was in his late 30s when he almost came into the sport at that level. But amazing strong man, good all-rounder, had an absolutely incredible grip. Former training partner of Brian as well. Put in some amazing performances over the years in shows. And, you know, like, I sort of talk a lot about it. I say, like, you know, sometimes the timing has got to be important in terms of when someone comes into the sport, how long they've been in it and things like that. And obviously Mike came into it late for a sportsman, but also on top of that, he came into an era where there was a lot of good guys, as in Big Z, Brian, in their prime, 4 coming into his prime. And yeah, it was tough back then, you know, like we're talking about 3 of the best ever, all in their prime, all competing at the same time. So he had a couple of 5th place finishes at World's Strongest Man as well, which obviously is incredible, and did make it onto the podium at the Arnold Classic, which is absolutely amazing. He got 3rd place in 2014. Mike was unbelievable, and anyone that competed against him would probably agree with me on this, that he didn't perhaps get to the levels that he could have got to had he just came into the sport sort of 5 years earlier, because he had so much talent. It was unbelievable. So next up, we've got my good friend Vytautas Lalas. They've actually got a YouTube channel where they put out some strongman content. So if you don't already subscribe to it, I recommend checking it out. Lalas was an incredible strongman. Made sort of the whole, oh, you've got to be tall to do well in strongman shows. You've got to be big, as in physically, naturally big. He sort of put all that to bed. Not the tallest guy. I mean, obviously, he's a lot taller than probably people realise. He's about 5'10", which for a strong man is short, but for real life, it's still pretty normal. He was absolutely huge in terms of his muscle mass, was very big. Great shape, really sort of kept his mobility as he got bigger as well. So he was great at things like loading races. I actually first met Lalas in Ukraine at World's Strongest Nation in 2008. And he was like the sort of the young up and coming Lithuanian guy almost. You had Big Z in there, Blakaitis, I think Brusokas as well was the other one. They were all like great strongmen, and Lalas was their 4th Lithuanian team member, and I remember being super impressed with him there because I hadn't seen him before. But then obviously he went on to doing other things where the performances started to come in. So 2012 World's Strongest Man, he came second place. Now, he was incredible this year. Obviously, I was in the show myself. He really was unbelievable. And it was just so unlucky for him that that year, for some reason, they had Power Stairs as the last event rather than Stones. Had it been Stones, I mean, Lalas wasn't the best stone lifter, but he was still very good, especially considering his height. And we still had the higher platforms at World's Strongest Man back then. So I'm not saying he would have won that, but I think that he would have had a better chance. Was very, very unlucky. Yeah, very sad, obviously, for him to not win because he was so close and actually was quite dominant that year. Was very impressive. But then he backed that up straight into 2013 with an Arnold Classic win. Now, we all know sort of in the public eye, World's Strongest Man is the title. I think within the sport, some people see the Arnolds as higher, but I personally sort of put them on an even thing. I think that any of the big shows now, World's Strongest Man, Arnold Classic, Strongest Man on Earth, and the Rogue are all like, they're sort of like the big four. So to win one of those, it kind of, they all sort of equal the same within the sport. I just think that obviously the general public, because of the TV side, know World's Strongest Man. But to come second at World's Strongest Man is an incredible feat. And like I said, it was so sad almost seeing him do the Power Stairs because it was just the height was the issue. And I really felt for him watching it. And, you know, I liked all the guys that I was competing against in that era. They were all great guys. But I would have loved to have seen Lalas win because he's a super good guy. I think unless you've spent a lot of time around Lalas, perhaps you don't get his sense of humour. He's very dry and sort of almost serious, and everyone thinks he's very serious, but he's actually a really funny guy. You just have to sort of understand how his sense of humour works. And I always felt like, you know, he was a good friend and good company as well. I actually was fortunate enough to do a couple of shows over the last few years that he was working on and sort of got to hang out again because he's a good guy and probably deserved the World's Strongest Man win in 2012 because of his performance, but was unlucky. Just height was an issue on the Power Stairs. But great guy, Vitalis Lalas, one of the best guys to never win World's Strongest Man. Right, now this guy, Misha Kilakovski. Now Misha is, for anyone that's spent time around him, is literally one of the funniest guys you would ever meet. And he's unintentionally funny as well. Like, he can have you laughing in hysterics just by being himself. He's great energy to be around, funny guy, but also an incredible strongman. Now, he was an amazing weightlifter. I think it was around about a 250 kilo clean and jerk he did. He was an amazing power lifter. He did a 417.5 kg deadlift with no suit, no straps, nothing, which obviously is still a very strong feat. Yeah, he was just kind of like one of those guys, just so talented and so gifted. Obviously worked hard as well, but he could do it all. It was incredible. And I mean, I remember seeing a video of him doing a 1,000 kilo powerlifting total in like 30 seconds. So he'd done like a 400 kilo deadlift, a 380 squat and a 220 bench or something like that. It was absolutely insane, literally in like one lift after the other. And then there's that exhibition he did up in Scotland where there's a lot of videos floating around the internet where he did a 290 kg no-handed squat, a 270 behind the neck jerk, a 400 kilo deadlift. This was all in a seminar that he was doing. It was, I mean, just so talented and so gifted, and one of the funniest guys you would ever meet in your life. And also on top of that, he was he liked to live life, and I think that was one of the things with Misha, where his energy was so good. He partied, he trained hard, obviously, so talented, but I can say now, like, me and Misha had many drunken night back in the days. I actually remember being drunk at the Arnold's and I'd torn all my calluses off, and him sitting there pouring whiskey over my hands and cutting all the skin off in our drunken state, and we found it absolutely hilarious at the time. But yeah, he's super great guy, and I actually have got a hat that he gave me. So this was in 2012, I believe, at the Arnold Classic. He gave me his hat. Now, I'm not supporting Russia in the war, before anyone says that. I don't do politics online, but I keep that hat and all, because it's very special to me, because it was given to me by a good friend. He's super talented. But also, I mean, we'll talk about some of his performances as well. I mean, he came third at World's Strongest Man in 2010. Was an amazing performance. 2013, I remember actually, he shredded his hands on the first event, which was terrible. I mean, one of the worst I've ever seen. He like virtually had no skin on his hands, which was absolutely horrendous. He actually podiumed at the Arnold Classic 4 times as well. 3 third places and 1 second place. There was a number of good performances in the IFSA World Championships as well. Before that was when the split was happened. I can do a whole video about that. The split was in place and he was with IFSA. I was actually with World's Strongest Man at the same time. I believe he come third at the IFSA Worlds in 2007 when I first come third at World's Strongest Man. But I mean, Misha was an incredible guy, and for anyone who's been around him would know how much of a great guy he is, how funny he is, and how talented he is. But he's got to be on my list of best strongmen I competed against that didn't win World's Strongest Man. Okay, so next on my list is a good friend of mine, Mr. Travis Ortmeyer. He came 5th at World's Strongest Man 3 times. Now, Travis, I think it's been pretty well documented, went through some problems in life, and he lost his way a bit. And I think that, you know, obviously if anyone doesn't know the story, I'd check it out. He really lost his way at one point. And I think for me, the most inspiring thing about Travis is where he's at now. So he came through some tough times, went through some difficulties, which, you know, is not my place to go into, but like I said, make sure you check it out. There are some videos of him out there talking about what he went through and sort of where he was at, had some addiction problems, things like that. And he's really come out the other side of it. He's had a hip replacement and he's still doing stuff now. He's, I think he's quite inspirational in his character, how he is now, because he's always been a nice guy, but kind of went a bit wayward at one point. And now to see him in a place in life where he's happy, talks a lot about sort of gratitude in life. He's very positive. He coaches a lot of people. He's very supportive of them. And he's always been someone that me and him have always had quite a good bond. We've roomed together a couple of times back in the old days, like the Champions Leagues and things like that. He's a great guy, and it's so pleasing for me to see where he's at in life now because of sort of what he came through. Although he didn't ever podium at World's Strongest Man, again, he did get 2 third places at the Arnold Classic, which, as we all know, is a very difficult feat to do. And like I said, I mean, he was a great strong man, great stone lifter, really sort of talented. Actually, 2010 World's Strongest Man, he finished the competition with a broken ankle. He was literally deadlifting with a broken ankle. So, I mean, that shows a lot about the sort of measure of the man as a you know, from a mental point of view. But like I said, for me, he's got to be on the list because he is one of the best strongmen that didn't win, in my opinion, in the time I was competing. And also, I think he's an inspiration for where he's at in life now. Coming through what he's come through, to come out the other side and then have a positive impact back on life to other people is a great thing. So shout out to Travis, he's got to be on my list. Right, and last but not least, I couldn't leave him out, is a guy who has been like an absolute legend in the sport, has done so much for the sport in so many ways, Mr. JFkaran. He's got to be on the list because he's been there or thereabouts for so long, such good longevity within the sport. He's done so much for strongman in Canada. is supportive of the guys. He coaches a number of the Canadians that do well at World's Strongest Man now, Weds Dawinski and Tristan Hoth. He's coaching both of them. Both last year made the final of World's Strongest Man, which is amazing. But JF's a great guy, knows so much about the sport, and like I said, he's promoted so many shows in Canada as well. So he has a lot of influence on the fact that the Canadian strongman level at the moment is so good. They have great competitions over there, and he's a big part of that. So yeah, it's amazing to see, obviously, him when he finally got that moment of getting on the podium at World's Strongest Man in 2020. It was such a deserved moment for him because of, you know, he's one of those guys that's just sort of really given his life to an extent to the sport. This is something that sort of people forget sometimes, is you have to sacrifice so much of your time and effort to do the sport alone at that level, but then to also be running shows, running events in your own country to try and increase the level of the sport from the other side of it, not just your own ability. You know, people like him deserve a lot of credit for that. I think it's, if you're trying to raise the level of the sport in terms of the ability of all the athletes, but also the status of the sport in terms of like making the shows good, putting them in places where a lot of people are going to see it, getting the guys exposure. I think if you can do all those things of raising that level on top of competing yourself, it says a lot about you as a person, how selfless you are. Obviously, it's great to do well yourself as an individual, but if you can give back in other ways to the sport, to the fans, to the, you know, the community, then that's a positive thing. And I think he deserves a lot of credit for that. And like I said, it was amazing to see him on the podium. I think he was one of the more, you know, one of the guys that everyone would want to see do well. So him getting a podium in 2020 was great for everyone, not just himself, because everyone was so pleased for him. But had some amazing performances over the years. Like I said, so many finals, so many years. We actually competed at World's Strongest Man in 2008, was his first year. We were in the same group, and he turned up and he was kind of good deadlifter, you know, pretty good, quite small at the time, and but he was always a good deadlifter, to be fair. But then what he went on to, obviously, so consistent, so many big performances over the years. Like I said, I mean, I think actually he's got more finals than I did in the end. Let me have a look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Actually the same. So we got the same amount of finals, JF, but he, yeah, I mean, he thoroughly deserved that podium finish. And I mean, God knows how many times Canada's Strongest Man. Hang on, let me just have a count. 9 times Canada's Strongest Man, and was on the podium 12 times. So that, you know, shows the sort of dominance that he had. And like I said, I mean, the biggest thing for me is obviously he's definitely on my list of 10 guys that are the best strongmen I competed against that haven't won World's Strongest Man, but also he gives a lot back to the sport as well. And I think that shows what kind of guy he is, where his head's at in terms of wanting the sport to grow as well. And I'm hoping he'll make it out to World's Strongest Man this year. I don't know if he's there or not. I haven't spoke to him recently, so hopefully he'll make it out and I'll get to have a chat with him, get to catch up, because obviously we competed together many times over the years, so it's always good to catch up with someone like JF. And all respect to him, he's a good guy and tough as nails, and was a great strongman. So there it is. That is my list of guys that I competed against, the best guys that didn't win World's Strongest Man. Now, like I said, I was a bit unsure about Matias because he's still active now. He could potentially go on and win. Hopefully he has a massive performance at World's Strongest Man over the next few days. But yeah, I mean, I think that's a pretty comprehensive list. I mean, if you had a World's Strongest Man final and that was the 10 guys in it, you certainly wouldn't be disappointed in terms of the level of talent. And none of those guys won World's Strongest Man, unfortunately. But you got to remember, at that level of sport, no matter what sport it is, the margins are tiny. So the difference between the absolute best and the guys that are not quite the best, the margins are minuscule. You're talking about half a second here, maybe squeezing one extra rep out. You know, that's what wins you these shows. And obviously on those days at World's Strongest Man, these guys just didn't have the luck go their way. And some of the time it does come down to just luck. They've all won big international shows at some point, so it shows they're capable, and against the best guys in the world as well. So, like I said, I think it's a pretty comprehensive list. I hope I haven't left anyone out. I'm pretty sure I haven't. Obviously, I competed against so many good strongmen over the years. Some honourable mentions like Stefan Solvi Peterson, Irving Katona. Yeah, I mean, there's a number. Really good strongmen that didn't win World's Strongest Man. I'd probably, you know, I'm getting a bit old. I'd probably have to sit there and think about it for 20 minutes to come up with some more people. But yeah, some great strongmen that never won World's Strongest Man. And yeah, I think these guys all deserve credit as well, because without them doing their sort of hard years of competing, we wouldn't have had the likes of Brian and Z and Marius and Four in his prime and these people, because, you know, you have to have competition to excel. So the fact that all these guys were so good really helped push me on as an athlete. It got me to a point where I was better, and also, you know, in terms the guys above that, it pushed them on as well. So like Big Z, Brian, Marius, these sort of people, you know, without this competition, they wouldn't have been as good as they were. So shout out to all of them, and hope you enjoyed watching. Please, if I've left anyone off the list, leave it in the comments. If anyone disagrees with any of it, that's fine. And please subscribe to the channel. Obviously, I'm going to be posting stuff while at World's Strongest Man. I have been looking through my notes about the rules of what I can and can't post. So I will be able to post a little bit of content, but it will be in very short snippets of the guys competing. So I'll try and get some action while I'm out there and some behind the scenes stuff. Catch you soon.